problem. I would like to introduce
Bigfootspat Paranormal Investigations Team.
Spotted.
And welcome to another edition of Bigfoots Pad Paranormal Radio. Right now on the phones I have the Archangel and the Mothman Warrior 1.0. And King Gray is also supposed to call in here any minute. But today's show is going to be a great show. It's about close encounters and alien abductions. So, you excited for today's show, guys?
Yeah, definitely.
Hell yeah.
This is a show that we usually do every once in a while. One of our shows that was overdue for a repeat. Sorry about that. Blog Talk was sending me a weird message, but so I think Lena's on the phone. Is this Lena?
Yes,
Yeah.
it is.
Oh, okay, I didn't recognize that number. Anyways.
Yep, it's me.
Nick, you want to do your news stories first?
Yeah. I just got a couple quick news stories to share with you guys today. First, recently in the past week or two, some photos of some weird lights of unidentified lights were taken over the countrysides of Russia and England. The experts are debating right now as to what they can be. You know, you get some of your people saying that, it's just experimental military aircraft, and then you get the people like us who come out and say that it's aliens, and then others say it's a weather balloon, and then you have the swamp gas people and blah, 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 blah. But basically all the news article said is the lights are not identifiable as of yet, and they have been able to stand tests of scrutiny so far, but more studies of the photos and the accompanying phenomena have to be done. And then secondly, a woman in Sweden reported to the hospital for sexual assault. Now, this was not just any ordinary sexual assault that took place. Apparently, she claims that she was assaulted by an invisible entity. She had told the newspaper over in Sweden, I guess, that for years she has been experiencing sexual intercourse with an invisible entity, and that she has disturbing dreams of demons and other odd things. She says it feels, quote, there are several hands that touch me at once. And she also has descended into despair and depression at various points in her life, as the article noted, which is a sign but not a guarantor of demonic possession. But, yeah, I'd just like to ask you, does that sound very similar to a movie we watched called The Entity?
It actually does. I was thinking. So she was saying this was happening all the time, or does this just happen like once or twice, or did they say, or?
She said it's been happening throughout her life, and she finally just reported to the hospital now to get treatment for it. But the doctors think she's nuts because she doesn't claim she was assaulted by a man, but rather she was assaulted by a ghost or a demonic entity.
I don't know. What do you guys think about it, Lena and Brent? Oh, and Tim's on also.
I don't know. It sounds like that movie, The Entity, but I mean, that's pretty crazy.
I agree with
mean,
Ryan. That is pretty cool.
I just like to give a little bit more detail. In the article is quite long, so I can only jot down some notes. But she said, she got pretty detailed about it. She said, one night I was laying on my bed and the entity came from behind me and had intercourse in my anal area, to put it mildly. So she has some very vivid, detailed accounts of these episodes, which are pretty disturbing if you read them. So I just like to throw that out there. It's not like she showed up and she's making these wild claims. She has very detailed, journaled accounts of these encounters with this entity that she claims that sexually assaults her.
Well, I was going to say, I have a couple of news articles. I was say, are you done with yours yet, Nick? Or?
Oh, yeah, I'm done. Those were the only two I had.
Well, here's the first one. It says, mermaids apparently scared off some workers in Zimbabwe, it says. A government minister in Zimbabwe says work has stopped on a new reservoir because workers have been scared off by mermaids, a reporter has said. According to OrangeNews.com, Minister of Water Resources Samuel Tepepa, is how I think you say that, reportedly told a preliminary committee that terrified workers were refusing to go to the sites near the towns of Gokwe and Mutare, is how I think you say that. The only way to solve the problem was to brew traditional beer and carry out rites to appease the spirits, he said. The senior politician allegedly said mermaids were also present in other reservoirs during the conflict. Building of the reservoirs is long overdue, but the consideration is essential if Zimbabwe is to provide water for its populations, it said. And it says, as a joke at the end of the article, it says that they're hiring for guards to try to fight off the mermaids, apparently, or something like that.
Well, I got one question immediately. Did they spot any talking crabs?
So, Brett, if
talking
we went on
and
a
singing
trip,
crabs.
we're going to make some extra money by hunting mermaids, Brett.
Okay.
It said that the government's paying good money for people to guard the workers from the mermaids.
Well, there you go. There goes your second job.
If we went on a trip to Zimbabwe for some reason, and they say, hey, I'll give you $1,000 to sit with a rifle and look for mermaids, I'd do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but what would happen? Oh, sorry, Brent.
Oh, I was just going to say that would be interesting. An interesting job.
I was going to say, what would happen if we went over and the mermaids were like the mermaids in that latest Pirates of the Caribbean? There were some ravenous predators that wished to drag us down to the depths of the ocean and rip us to shreds and eat our bones.
So that's actually not far from what they're trying to say on that article, to tell you the truth.
Oh.
But here's another thing. What if we were guarding the mermaids as the job and a mermaid actually showed itself? Then what would you do?
I don't know.
Like a real mermaid came out? Well, here's a weird one. It says, apparently, Tim knows about this, the Russians are in Antarctica digging in this ancient frozen lake because they say Hitler, they think that he hid some sort of, like, documents and things like that in this ancient lake, so I guess they're drilling. You on the line, Tim?
Yeah, I'm here.
Hey, don't you know about this?
I read basically what they were digging. I didn't read like the full article though.
Oh, you sound like you're really far away.
I don't know. I'm talking right on my phone.
Well, Anyways, well, it says that there's a base that was abandoned in World War II nearby, so they think that that's the location where he hid certain documents and things like that. Interesting.
Well, you didn't know that Hitler didn't commit suicide. That was really a body double, and Hitler dug an underground bunker in Antarctica, and he's surviving to this very day on life support.
Well, actually, they say he did escape, though. They say there's actually proof he actually did. They said there was a body double, and they say he actually escaped on the last plane out of Berlin, and he flew to Spain, and from Spain he took a U-boat to South America.
I had to. So how did they acquire information or stuff saying, you know, he buried stuff in this ancient lake or something?
Well, they don't know for sure, but Hitler and the Nazis, they said when World War II, when they were starting to lose the war, it said that they sent off a bunch of submarines into the Arctic oceans and around the world, and they were sinking these submarines in the middle of the ocean so people couldn't get the documents or whatever was on board. And they think that maybe he threw some stuff in that lake or whatever because it's close proximity to the base is what they were saying.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, because towards the end of the war, they would dump a lot of like stuff like money, valuables, paintings, all sorts of stuff on the bottom of the lake for later. They thought the Third Reich was going to rise up again.
Brent's a Nazi.
On the inside.
Brent's a Nazi. He's a Nazi
red and white
mermaid hunter.
He's a surfing Nazi zombie.
So I'm waiting for one of my news articles to load, then we'll get started with the topic after I get this to work. Well, I'll say while I'm waiting for this to work, is there any team news that's going on? I got a good one. The Mothman Poirier might be moving back to our area, and if he does, we're going to have a couple more cases under our belt, like new things going on top of what we already have, I guess.
Yeah. No, I might be coming back to Vegas this summer. I'm definitely going to visit, obviously, but I may or may not move back permanently, depending on how things turn out in the next few months over here in Cleveland, Ohio, and we'll just see what happens. I might try to make a trip down there for my spring break for this last semester I have in college, and we want to go do some various things, and amongst those things, we want to go do some paranormal cases and probably work on the UFO case, which centers around a secret location in northern Nevada, right, Jared?
Oh, yeah. Well, something else on that note is, we apparently are starting to do some interviews on our show starting in like 2 weeks from now. We're going to start interviewing. We have Michael Slade, which is the Bigfoot in Nevada and Utah guy booked. We have Stanton Friedman's the week after that. And we have Frank Pacino's the week after that. So we're starting to do interviews again probably for the next month or two after this.
I have to correct you. It was the great Stanton Friedman.
Oh, yeah.
That's the third time. Yeah.
Take me to your leader.
You only referred to him as Stan Friedman. He's the great Stanton Friedman. Remember, Nick?
The great Stanton Friedman.
No, Nick, let me hold it.
Let me hold it.
Well, we have 45 minutes left in the show, and we're going to go on a quick commercial break. And when we get back, we're going to get started with today's topic, and you're listening to BSP Radio.
Hello, I'm Mr. Webb. A horse is a horse, of course, and no one can talk to a horse, of course. That is, of course, unless the horse is the famous Mr. Ed. Go right to the source and ask the horse. He'll give you the answer that you endorse. He's always on a steady course. Talk to Mr. Ed. People yakety-yak and streak and waste your time a day. But Mr. Ed will never speak unless he has something to say. A horse is a horse, of course, and this one will talk till his voice is hoarse. You never heard of a talking horse? Well, listen to this.
I am Mr. Ed.
I love Basso, it's rich in chocolate tea. Chocolate flavored Basso is mighty good for me. Mama puts it in my milk for extra energy. Basso gives me iron and sunshine vitamin D. Oh, I love Basso, that's the drink for me.
Up from the depths, 30 stories high, breathing fire, his head in the sky. Godzilla, and Godzilla.
And we're back on BFP Radio. Sorry, I had to go in the other room there for a minute. Well, today's topic...
man, I missed...
Oh, what's that?
I was like, man, Jerry, you brought back the classical commercial lineup. I thought you deleted them or something. If you had deleted them, you would have had to pay dearly. You would have had to eat an extra...
No, I just have so many commercials now. I have like 20 of them, so I have to try to switch between them all.
Oh, well, it's nice to hear Mr. Ed in Bosco again. That's all I want to say.
Well, we're going to start with today's topic, which is chosen by the Archangel, or Brent. And it's called Alien and UFO and Close Encounters and Abductions. Well, so to get started with this, is there a certain thing you guys want to get started with, or?
You can just talk about the general topic.
Yeah, so we're talking about just general alien abductions and close encounters. Well, anyways, I'll get started with it.
Okay.
Well, these close encounters with these contactees, which is where the alien contact these individuals and they don't really abduct them in a sense or operate on them like you read in books and see on television. An interesting thing that I was thinking about last night was, how do you think they determine who they want to abduct versus who they just want to contact, or why don't they talk to them instead of abducting them in the first place, or you know what I'm trying to say, like why?
Yeah.
I know some contactees say that they somehow telepathically tell them that they're special or they're chosen. Like maybe I don't know, they have some kind of trait maybe that determines that they're the ones versus other people.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, remember Jesus the alien talked to to that one lady.
Oh, you mean
remember the one guest
America?
speaker? Yeah, she said Jesus was an alien and he talked to her.
Oh no, the lady was saying that there was aliens in Antarctica.
Oh.
We'll get to that in a minute. But what were you saying, Brent?
Okay.
I was just saying the way I see it, it kind of looks like it goes in like different types of stages of like at first it'll start off as like not all cases do this, but I mean like to me it seems like in some cases that they start off as being a contactee, and then after that they once they start visiting them more, they'll go to abductions and all their experimentations.
That's true.
But
speaking of that, we had a guest caller on our show about a couple months ago. She was saying that she had some sort of contact with an alien that told her that South America supposedly is where there was some UFO base or something she was talking about. And she said after she had that contact with those aliens, she said that she was having Men in Black experiences. And something interesting is, I don't know if she's telling the truth or not or all that, but if supposedly she thought it was a dream, why would the Men in Black and all of them be coming to her house and threatening her over just a dream. That, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
That's true.
I say, is that the story you were thinking of, Nick?
It might be. I don't know. Was she the artist or something? She talked for like an hour straight about stuff, or was that somebody else?
Well, that was her.
Oh. Yeah, no, I recall she said Jesus was an alien and came down and told her some other stuff, and she started giving us like a religious alien sermon. It was kind of funny, but yeah, I've heard the story of aliens in Antarctica or buried under Antarctica and in South America before. I think a former guest of ours, Bill Tracer, told us a similar story, didn't he?
Well, he said that aliens lived in Antarctica, and he didn't say they contacted him, of course, but he had a similar theory, and that's pretty weird, actually, if you think about it. We've had several people call into the show saying the same thing. What do you think, Brent?
What's that?
What do you think about that? Do you think that's just a coincidence that we've had several people saying there's aliens in Antarctica, or do you think there's some truth behind it, or what's your opinion?
For me, I think there is some possibility that there's aliens, like an alien base in Antarctica. But,
well, what was that?
Oh, I was just gonna say, but I mean that's just my opinion, just from reading articles and stuff like that. It's okay, snark.
I had to do the snark. Nick's sound clip is tool time. Brent's is snark.
Yep.
And I don't have one.
Anyway. I found an article. Sorry if this is jumping around a little bit. I found an article that says that someone was taken from Alabama on board a spaceship, like an abduction. But she says she couldn't see anybody. She was laying in a room, an empty room. She said that it was lit up, but she couldn't see where it was lit up by. There was no lights on the walls, or there was no sort of light bulbs. The room was just lit somehow. But she says that the furniture was built into the floor, like you couldn't move it around like the furniture like in our house. Anyways, here's the thing that I was going to talk about. She said that she could sense that there was people around her, but she couldn't see them. Or once in a while, she said that she would hear them, like just scurrying around or doing whatever. Again, she couldn't see them. So she says the water had like a mucus wet liquid, like water or something on the ground, like it was kind of damp, wet type area. So she said she scooped up some of the water in her hand and tried to wash her face with it, but she said when she splashed on her face, she says water went past her face, I guess some of the water did, and past her face landed behind her. And she said all of a sudden alien somehow was cloaked or sitting in the dark, I guess she was saying, like a dark corner of the room or whatever. But apparently she says that the alien instantly turned green, like almost like I don't know how to explain it. She said it turned green and went invisible. So the question I was leading up to is, do aliens go invisible by going green, is what the article says.
Huh.
So in other words, an alien becomes invisible by being an environmentalist by going green.
Well, no, I was saying like they think that it somehow it naturally in that environment, or maybe there's some sort of device that like it would turn like a greenish color and then it would disappear. Is what they were saying.
I'm just pulling legs, but go ahead, Tim.
Well, I have a comment on that. Well, maybe they say like when the Philadelphia experiment, they had such an EMF reading, like they said they lit up green before everything went invisible and supposedly traveled. You know what I mean? Maybe it's the same concept. Maybe they're using some sort of high EMF to cloak themselves.
Yeah.
That's what they said the Philadelphia experiment did. So.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was I going to say? As far as what's that, Nick?
I was going to throw one random fact out there about why they might turn green when they go invisible. The color green is in the middle of the color spectrum. It goes red, orange, yellow, green, blue, indigo, violet. And green's in the middle of the color spectrum. So maybe with the way the light is contorted or twisted or whatever, they turn green and go color neutral. I don't know. Just to throw that out there.
Well, that does make sense. But the only thing I was thinking was, and usually when it comes time to like military and all that type of stuff, don't they try to go for the violet colors?
Yeah.
Or at least with ghost hunting type stuff, they go for the violet colors for like the colors you can't see.
Ultraviolet.
I think because Tim and Brent will know more about that. They're more weapon knowledgeable than I am.
Like the ultraviolet's supposed to be an invisible light spectrum, so I don't know, maybe they're using some sort of like Nixon, maybe they're contorting light somehow because they are, probably thousands of years ahead of us in technology, so they probably found a way to bend light and manipulate the light. And maybe maybe either in the infrared spectrum or ultraviolet to somehow close themselves. I mean, if they could travel across the star systems, I'm sure they could find a way to cloak themselves.
Yeah, seriously.
Well, I was reading more about these alien abductions, and a good question that's always brought up with these type of experiences is the instruments. When these people are getting operated on, supposedly, these instruments are built into the walls, and they always have these long tube-like things connecting these instruments to the walls, like they're built into the walls. What's your opinion on that?
Well, my personal opinion is, again, they're on a spaceship. They have limited space. So that's like their home, you know what I mean, while they're gone, away from their home planet or whatever. So they have to make do with what little room they have, so I guess they build stuff into the walls, you know what I mean? And I heard they retract in and out, like at will whenever they wanted to, so that's my personal opinion. That's probably why it's built into the walls.
Well, when it comes time to, my opinion is maybe because their ship is flying around in space and they to keep the instruments from falling all over the floor and stuff like that is what I was thinking.
Well, that.
Oh yeah. Like a storage.
That makes a lot of sense.
Like as they drive around this, like if they're making like sudden turns like UFOs are said to make, maybe it's to keep their stuff from falling all over the floor and stuff. That way, like if they were just sitting on a table and they make a dramatic turn, they would fall all over the floor. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know what I was going to bring up. I don't know if you would call this a contactee or what you would call it. Do you guys remember the Sutton Farm alien takeover that we did a show on about a year ago?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What would you consider that? Because these people are having a party. This is for people that don't know, not familiar with the story. These people are having a party. Here's the short version of it. In the South, back in the late 40s, early 50s. So I think it's the 40s. Sorry about that. Anyways, all of a sudden, they see some sort of a glowing violet spaceship fly over them, and it looks like it lands inside this meadow by their house. Next thing they know, there's these little alien creatures are floating above the grass around their house, trying to break in their house is the short version of it. And these people start shooting at these aliens, trying to keep them from getting in their house, or they think like they're gonna snatch them up. This is before alien abductees and all that was mainstream. But what would you consider that? Would that be a contact, or what would you say that was?
Probably some sort of a contact.
It's probably an extermination attempt, in my opinion. They're just going to they had very, very hostile intentions, apparently, from the details of the story that were given.
And then World War III.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Edward Myers, I think you say that. And I'm getting told to try to read this story. It says, according to his autobiography, he was dropped out of school in the 6th grade and was confined to a mental hospital for 5 years until he escaped, and became fascinated with cephalogy and stuff like that. After reading a translation of Adaminsky's first 2 books, Myers started making similar claims and showing similar photos. He said his saucer writing claims date back from about 1965 and closely based on Adaminsky's, that's a famous contactee for those of you who don't know, including trips to the mothership in Earth's orbit or onto Venus and other planets, he says. But his main innovation was to have the space brothers, or these people that he was contacted by, come from another solar system. About 10 years later, Meyer shot some color photos and Super 8 movies of several different Hotep-like flying saucers. In his office in the headquarters building off of the cult community, he found it said he basically started finding a cult, as they say, around his UFO contactee. How do you say this? He based the religion off of his adventures with the flying saucer people, to make it short.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. I've read about that before.
There's a guy in our chat room that says that they say that he's a hoaxer, is what a guy's saying in the chat room.
Yeah, that's what they say. That's the one that supposedly claims that, I believe the one in California where they claim they're going to come get him, and they were supposed to be predicted it 3 times, and each time failed, obviously.
Well, do you think that maybe these people can be being abducted by these UFOs and driven to other worlds and all that?
Oh, yeah.
That's good thinking.
Well, if you think about it, we had a guest on our show that said that he was supposedly contacted by aliens and he was driven to another world. I don't recall what the world was called, but he said that the people were naked, like they weren't wearing any clothes, but he said that they lived in almost primitive-looking houses, but their vehicles were high-tech UFOs. Could this happen in reality, or you would think that if they have all this technology that their houses wouldn't be like Stone Age, but who knows, right?
Right,
yeah.
It depends on the civilization, really, like their lifestyle.
Yeah, I mean, not to pick on Africa specifically, but this is the first example that comes to my mind. There's people that are in Africa that live in grass huts, yet they have cars and guns and other modern technology, but they still live in huts. So it is entirely possible that an alien species could be like that.
Oh, yeah.
That's what comes to my mind is someone named Dallas.
Yeah.
And by the way, he is looking very primitive right now.
Yes, he is. Well, while we're doing the show about abductions, I think we have to bring up this story because I think it's one of the most well-known and famous. I believe in the 1950s, wasn't there a couple that was abducted, and later on they were able to, like, yeah. Tim, do you know a lot about that? I think you're pretty knowledgeable about that. Could you tell us the story?
Their niece was a guest on our show in November.
Yeah. I remember that. But yes, I'm very familiar with that case.
Yeah, I believe they had their niece was a guest on our show, and she was saying that apparently she said that they were trying to mess with Barney's dentures in his mouth after this once they're trying to mess around with them on the ship. She said that they're surprised with his dentures and the way they would move. Then they tried making Betty's teeth. They were wondering why her teeth didn't come out like his did. And they were pulling at her teeth, trying to make them come out. But the thing interesting about Betty and Barney Hill is this was before alien abductions were mainstream again. So everyone thought that they were crazy. But it said Betty ended up drawing out a map, a star map, like that she said that the aliens had showed her. She drew this out on a piece of paper, and it said that in the 1970s, which they said that years and years later, the 1970s, that they ended up finding some of these galaxies, that they were previously unknown at the time when she drew them. So if she drew this star map and predicted that all these galaxies were where she said they were, then who told her?
Yeah, that's really amazing.
Yeah. But plus, we can also ask Dan Friedman. He knows a lot about it, too, and when he comes back on in a few weeks, too.
I mean, that type of evidence right there kind of really shoots down the whole hoaxer claim that a lot of skeptics might make against Mr. and Mrs. Hill. I mean, the fact that she was able to draw that decades ahead of the technology is just beyond belief. It's totally surreal and amazing.
Well, another thing that was weird is she said that her dress was covered in a strange pinkish powder when they woke up in the morning or when they got back in the car. And I guess she said that she still has the dress that Betty was abducted in. And she got some of this powder tested, and it had bizarre levels. They had all earthly elements in it, but they couldn't exactly pinpoint where this powder was manufactured at or how they would manufacture it. Almost as if science was they said that the scientists couldn't even prove how to make that sort of substance.
Wow.
And on the note of Betty and Barney Hill, sorry, I just remembered this. She said that while they were driving, what was it, Maine, right, Tim? Or New Hampshire, somewhere up there, Vermont, one of those.
Yeah, New Hampshire.
Anyways, so they're driving, and she said that Barney, it was almost as if there was mind control. Like, he immediately felt an urge to turn down this deserted dirt road. And they said that when they drove down this road, the aliens in the spaceship were already in the road waiting for them, like a ways down the road.
Like mind controlled them to going down the road?
That's what I was saying, like mind control.
Just like when you guys were going down the mountain road and you thought you saw a UFO on that one Parator.
Oh, yeah.
Oh.
You want to tell the story again, Tim?
Or Brent, if Brent wants to. Okay, I will.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter. We're all going to have the same story anyways.
Yeah.
Well, anyways, we were driving on Parator. We just came back. We were driving from our secret Sasquatch location in the middle of the night. We were driving in the mountain road, high in the mountains. But, remember, we're the only ones in the road about 3 in the morning. We're driving around, and next thing we know, we drive, we're surrounded by trees on both sides, but as we're making a turn around this corner to go down the hill, there happens to be a clearing on this one corner by a reservoir or lake, some sort of lake. And as this clearing opens, we see, the biggest splotch, I don't even know, it's the biggest thing I've ever seen in the air. It was just massive. If I don't remember right, I believe it was glowing with a bluish color. Or was that right, guys? Was it blue? Or?
Yeah. I thought it was changing colors, like a purple and blue type.
It was changing between a whole bunch of different colors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I've seen it when it was blue, but it was just the most massive thing I've ever seen, and he's hovering above this lake, and it's there. And people have said that UFOs can use lakes or water as some sort of a fuel source, which could possibly be it, because we were the only ones up there. You know what I mean? For hundreds of miles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was bizarre about it was the area that it was sighted in is very remote. They said that it's 60-something miles from the nearest town, and even that town is only a town of like 100 people. So, a good note, if you go to that location, that Bigfoot location, and you're out there for days, you might see 5 cars in 3 days of being there. So it's a perfect type of location for this type of thing to happen. It was in Northern California.
Yeah.
Yeah, but it was just the most massive thing I've ever seen flying, and I don't even know how it's possible. So, and I remember even Brent was driving, and even he's seen it too.
Yeah.
And then Brent started shooting guns at it.
Because that's the.
Put down your weapon. You have 20 seconds to comply.
That's what he did. Well, while we're on the topic of UFOs and all that, they said that there's this one contactee, or several contactees, I should say. They say that these beings, or these aliens, they always try to talk about environmental issues, or that our world is going to end if we don't change. Would you say that they're watching that individual because they're some sort of, I wouldn't call it a prophet, maybe because they don't act like how everybody else does, because obviously because they were saying, like Tim was saying, they said they're special in some way.
Yeah.
Like basically what I'm trying to say was, why would they abduct Nick to talk about environmental issues versus abducting you to talk about environmental issues?
Nick lives in Liberalville, that's why.
Yeah. Well, no. See, now you just gave me some good information. I knew something was wrong with Al Gore. There's something weird about him. He's from a different planet. That's the only logical explanation to address to how weird he is. He's from a different planet.
But I mean, it's very possible maybe that person's special, or they feel that they could make a change, or maybe they're kind of a leader type that could invoke that change versus somebody else, you know?
Yeah.
I'll say, do you have any thoughts on alien abductions or close encounters, Nick, that we haven't brought up yet?
Well, pretty much everything I know, you guys know and more. But I guess I'd like to maybe go a little further on what Tim was saying about they can possibly see something in somebody that maybe they don't see or others might see. Maybe they select, like you, they would abduct me instead of Brent, to use that as an example, because maybe they knew I would be a better advocate for their cause. I don't know, or Brent would, or you know what I'm saying? They could. It's very logical to think that a group of a species that can travel across the universe could definitely spy on people and notice qualities in them that would make them good candidates for an abduction. And that's something I think we have to think about. Like the alien species can probably watch it. They are watching us, I believe, and watch very closely. I mean, if you think about it, the American government has very extensive and advanced technology that it uses to spy on its citizens and to spy on people across the world. How much more advanced is alien technology? Think about that. So they could be using a drone, an unmanned spy drone that could be microscopic that we can't see. I don't know. I'm just probably veering off into far left field here, but the point is, I think they're watching us and watching us very closely. And in relation to picking people to contact or abduct, they probably use some sort of selection process from the research that they gather from watching us. Would you think so, Jer?
Oh, yeah. What was it? Did Lena hang up, Brent?
Yeah, she got off.
The aliens abducted her.
Yeah.
Interesting people in the chat room, had you?
It's what?
I said interesting stuff in the chat room, huh?
Yeah. And some guy says, if aliens are so advanced, why do they crash land on our planet? That's a good one for Nick to answer.
Well, I go,
well,
first of all. Oh, go ahead, Nick.
Oh,
I said, one of you guys could answer.
Tim,
first
he's
of all,
much more
it's
knowledgeable than me.
I was going to say, like any other vehicle, things happen, mechanical failures happen, people crash on different planets, and, you know, the stuff is beyond the realm. Like, you know, everything, unexpected things happen, you know. So, just like aliens, I'm sure their ships crash too.
Yeah, he took the words right out of my mouth. Oh, he took the words right out of my mouth. I was going to say the exact same thing. They're using machines. Machines malfunction. End of story.
Yeah.
Well, I just figure if they drive these spacecrafts wherever they go, all around the galaxies, or if they travel all the way here, you figure it's kind of like a car in a way, or an airplane. Cars and airplanes break down once in a while. I don't see why theirs wouldn't. Or maybe, like you were saying, the machine malfunctions or breaks down, or just different things.
Yeah, technology's not too reliable.
Actually, there's actually a good reason to believe that more complex, complicated technology will fail rather than more simple technology, because with more complex technology, you have more things going on at once, so there's more things that can go wrong. And if you use Murphy's Law, if it can go wrong, it will. Well, you just have a big mess, a big potential mess going on when you're talking about these very advanced technologies that these beings use.
Couldn't say it better myself.
Frank just say better though.
What's that?
Somebody in the
Jerry,
chat room says, somebody in the chat room to Nick's response says, easy way out. That's the easy way out of the question, he says, but not highly likely. He says they come here millions of miles and crash here is what the guy says.
So this, I'm sorry, I was going to say that this gentleman or person purports to know how the alien technology works. First off, that's just a grand assumption. Secondly, nothing works perfectly. Nothing is perfect. No matter how grand or complex it is, nothing is perfect. Whether you are traveling 1 inch or 100 million miles, potential for things to go wrong exists. And as far as this potential, wrong will happen and malfunctioning will happen because of Murphy's Law. If something will go wrong, it will.
And another guy says, what was it? Another guy says, you're so wrong. They don't use more complex ways. They use more simpler ways, is what a guy says.
And if they have they can feel free to call in if they have a good explanation, because, I mean,
well,
they have the
it's going to be over in like 10 minutes.
Well, I'm just saying, if they really want to call in, if they have a better assumption, they should feel free to call in if they'd like.
Yeah, if they have a good view, I'd like to hear it. This shows an interaction between us and the listeners. So we just don't want to sit here and blabber for an hour or two all the time. It can get kind of sickening to hear our own voices. So we want other people to call and to chime in and say their opinions.
Well, here's the thing I was thinking. You figure their technology, yes, it's more advanced, but it's not foolproof. Like, yes, like you said, it has possibilities to break down. Or, for instance, yes, they have crashed on our planet. we've interviewed how many people? Dozens of people that have handled wreckage and
seen it.
And things like that. So I don't deny the fact that they have crashed here. And again, we've had our run-ins with our case that we're working on. So.
Yeah.
That one guy, Nick. That one guy, he's seen something to flip out like that.
Oh yeah, definitely. Listen, I don't deny that they crashed. This is what I have to say to the people who are asking us these questions, which are really good. Maybe they should call back when Stanton's on in a couple of weeks and see what Stanton has to say. He's a physicist. He's an expert on these things, and he's a physicist, so he can give them a much better answer than we can he?
Yeah. We have a bunch of people wanting to argue over your opinion in the chat room right now.
Well, call Stanton and see what Stanton has to say. Stanton's much smarter than I am.
Hey, Brent, are you in a mood to argue over UFOs right now, Brent?
I have no idea what you're saying right now.
Are you in the mood to argue over UFOs?
No, not really.
You're not in the mood to be Spacey McGee.
Well, Nick.
Yeah.
In the last few minutes of the show, I have a thing. Someone in the chat room says that Stanton Friedman is a skeptic and he doesn't believe the thing he says.
If
he doesn't believe
the
thing I said. We've talked to him twice, and now I'm about to have him on for the third time, and the stuff that I'm saying, I've learned from him. Well, okay. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm not looking in the mood to argue, but everybody's entitled to their own opinions, and we respect them as long as they don't turn into too much of a joke.
But, anyways, well, we have 7 minutes left in the show, and something interesting on a final thought. So, as far as these UFOs go and abductions, would you say that, from what you guys know, do the different aliens treat the abductees differently?
Well, I've only heard of cases of the Greys, so I can only speculate on what I've heard from them. But they usually seem to treat their people about the same. They usually do genetic experiments on them, or they'll show them, like you're saying, it's a Betty Barney Hill star maps and things like that.
We had a guest, Bill Tracer, who he was imminent in saying that he thought that the aliens, or the reptoids, as he called them, that type of alien, he was obsessed with the reptoid race, and he was saying that he swears that they were combatant, I guess, the way he said, like they were out to fight against people, or they're up to no good, basically. I don't know if you guys remember him.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Again, it's probably different civilization. They may have different outlooks on the human race, or different races, you know what I mean?
It says Nick left for some reason.
Oh, okay.
Well, we're going to go on a quick commercial break, and when we get back, we're going to finish up the show. And again, you're listening to BFP Radio. And we're back on DFP Radio. We have 4 minutes left in the show. I was going to say, is your final thought, Brent, on the alien and UFO abductions until, I guess, 2 weeks until Stanton comes on? What would you say?
My final thoughts, is that what you said?
No, I said until Stanton comes on in two weeks. Wait, so what's your opinion on abductions and all that?
I have. Are you asking about Stanton, or are you asking about my
I'm
final
saying, what's
thoughts
your
on the
final
show?
thought before Stanton goes on the show, and as this show's ending, is what I would say.
Oh, okay, because I thought you were talking about both. I was like, I don't know. But I guess my final thought on the show today was, I don't know, it was interesting. I mean, got to talk about some interesting topics, some old abductions, old famous abductions. I don't know. I thought it was pretty good.
A lot of good opinions today. A lot of good talk. The only thing that's kind of disappointing is I didn't make the show a little bit longer. But
yeah, I know, right?
Because we could have had the caller. But anyways, we'll have to do a follow-up show here in like a month or two. That's a controversial topic, and there's a lot of debate going on. But I'll say, do you have any opinions, Tim, before we end the show?
Well, my final thought is the abduction phenomenon. It's been around probably since the dawn of time, but, it's only been recorded in recent history in the past half century or so. I think it's fascinating myself. I believe in it very much so. I believe they come and visit us and perform a genetic experiment. They're trying to, in the words of Stan Friedman, I believe they're here to kind of keep a watch over us and quarantine us because they're keeping an eye on our technology, and the abduction phenomenon is all part of that process. But it's very fascinating, and we'll have to bring it up to them.
Yep. And again, tune in next week at Saturday at 3 p.m. Pacific, and we're going to be talking about a great case of ours, the Nevada and Utah Sand Yak. And again, thanks for listening, everybody.